So the interesting thing is like, why does it not scale beyond that? Because in principle, it's just a lookup table. It could have a trillion entries. It's not a
Mhm.
problem, right? But why
Yes.
does it doesn't scale beyond that? It's not a problem of the DOI registry per se. It's a problem of the federated model around the DOI that says
Yeah, but
that you're essentially it pushes the buck down to the infrastructure provider. And it says to the
uh,
infrastructure provider, it's like, fine, well, you have now a trillion data artifacts. Okay, we'll mint you a trillion DOIs. And you'll pay if you use Crossref, you'll pay $1 trillion. But even let's ignore the cost. Imagine it's $0, right? Imagine
yeah.
it costs $0 on behalf of the registration agency to record this 1 trillion PID. Why does that not scale? It doesn't scale because you put the onus of responsibility to maintain the URL to PID mappings. So to maintain the correct URL mapping to the correct DOI, you put that responsibility on the infrastructure provider. You're passing the buck down the line. Now, as an infrastructure provider, maintaining stable links over so many artifacts is an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Every time I do a database migration, God help me, right? Every time I update the back end of my system, God help me. It's a for a software developer, it's very, very critical to maintain those mappings, but it requires a tremendous amount of care. Things can break, and there's no innate checksum function, right? So that
Yeah.
means there's no way for a developer to say, "Oh my God, the checksums are failing," right? So that means there's a problem here. The only thing that can be tested, and this is because of the error responses on the web, right, are 404s and these types of error codes, standardized error codes. And they tell you if the resource is not available anymore. But they're not going to tell you if the resource has changed because
Yeah.
there's no
So
snapshot and there's no way to verify, to checksum the data you're distributing.
then
So
was
essentially,
yeah.
you have blinders on, right? As a infrastructure provider, you don't know what's failing, you don't know what has changed. You have the responsibility to maintain trillions of records. It's a huge cost. So it's not that centralized lookup tables cannot scale into trillions. Yeah, they can. They can do so very efficiently. But the problem is in the federated nature of that system. Like now, if we contrast that to DPID, on DPID, we say, well, you're an infrastructure provider. Here's some libraries so that you can mint a PID for any arbitrary number of objects and link these together, and they all have an individual PID, and you will not have any problems with content drift, and you will not have any problems with maintaining information integrity because all of this is built in. And so it dramatically simplifies your database management and the database management to the exposition of URLs from your web applications, right? So that's a big like ease of life situation, right? Now, if you want to do this with, let's say, DataCite today, right? You have a data set and you want a PID. You'll typically request a single PID for research data. Now that research data could contain thousands, million, who knows how many individual objects, right? And another big issue is you have no idea how to do versioning, right? So like DOIs do not, a centralized lookup table again can support versioning. That's not a, impossibility. It's actually, it can do that. But the infrastructure itself was not made with versioning in mind. So the individual PID contained no information concerning how they changed, when they changed, and the history of change, right?